The SR3M is brand new within Escape from Tarkov, and in PvE mode, it absolutely shreds the AI and almost gives them a nerf. And that is because this weapon has such an amazing fire rate combined with the fact that it has a brilliant kind of ammo choice that you can actually load with the weapon. There are a few drawbacks which we'll get into within this video, but I wanted to showcase it off because it is a very, very fun weapon to use within Escape from Tarkov. So if that sounds like a good thing, then make sure to like this video, and of course let's jump in. First up, there are two ways in order for you to actually pick up the SR3M. You can either buy it from Prapor himself at level 4. If you do have loyalty level 4, then you'll be able to just purchase it for 147,751 rubles, or you can do a barter trade. And that barter trade requires 5 PMC dog tags that are USEC over level 30, so quite expensive in that regards, and I would just recommend just getting the weapon straight up, just buying it off of Prapor himself if you do have them unlocked. They are both unlocked at Prapor loyalty level 4, so doesn't really make a huge difference. One thing to mention is that it is possible to get the SR3M in the marked rooms, so you can pick it up off of the floor in marked rooms. It is a spawn within them, so you can always try and get lucky and get one if you don't have access to Prapor loyalty level 4, and so just another good way of getting it. Now when it comes to customization of this, there are a few things that you can do, but there is not a huge amount of different changes that you can make, and that is primarily because of the fact that you have limited kind of stock choices that can't actually be modified, such as the actual foregrip is just a foldable one, and at the moment and recording of this video there is no real changes that you can do. You can see you can modify it slightly by giving it some handguards and that sort of stuff, but you can't actually change the grip because there's nothing to attach it to, and you can't apply any kind of additional rails to allow you to put on a different kind of foregrip, so you're going to have to be stuck with the relatively stock polymer foregrip, which kind of sucks unless I'm completely getting it wrong, at which point I'm sure I'll get roasted in the comments, but either way, yeah, it kind of sucks that you can't change that. In terms of changeable things, we can use two different stocks. So you either have the R43 Val, which does have the option of actually putting on a different stock on your weapon, but it doesn't particularly make the biggest of differences anyway, because you can use the standard pistol grip and then put on the stock of the Val, giving you essentially the same ergo and near enough the same vertical recoil. It is slightly better when you do actually use a different stock, for example, but it's marginal, and so, you know, it's just up to you whether you want to spend the extra money, but it's PvE, it's probably worth doing anyway. So that's kind of what we have with this one. And so it's kind of a very weird build. You can't do a whole lot, and there's not a huge amount that you can do to improve your ergo and recoil and everything like that with this main weapon. You have the possibility of adding in a charging handle and some changes to the dust cover, but they don't actually give you anything different, and so really there's not a huge amount of point. You can change things like the scope that you've got, but you're going to have to use some form of dovetail mount in order to put on a decent scope, which does kind of suck, and there are a wide variety of different ones that you can use. And so yeah, we could use something like this, for example, and then put on the actual sight that we want and make it slightly better ergo, but really there's not a huge amount to be gained from doing any of this, but you know, it's up to you whether you want to do it. Either way, that's kind of the customization of this weapon, but it's all about the rounds that you do have available when you do run this weapon. Remember that this is a high tier weapon, or at least a high unlock weapon, which means that you are probably going to have access to at least SP5, which is a okay round, but the reason why it's so good is because of the fact that although the penetration chance is relatively low at 28, you do have high penetration up to level 3 and very high between 1 and 2, and when you combine that with the fact that you've got 71 damage, it really does feel amazing. It means you can one tap a lot of people in the head. The only issue that comes with this is of course those high tier gear, things like Tagilla for example, can be a bit of a pain, but because you're doing so much damage every single time, the blunt damage and everything that you get with these rounds is not actually bad, and you can often just dump a full mag before they've realized and take them out quite easily. Or you could go for the legs for example to get even more damage and take them out that way, but primarily if you do actually want to run this as a fully kind of kitted out weapon with the best possible things that you can, then SP6 comes in clutch. It has slightly less damage, but it does go up to level 5 penetration with a high chance and level 1 to 4 with very high chance, so it's really good in that regard. And there's no real issues when you're running the SP6 ammunition. It is unlocked from a quest. I have not actually currently done it, and that unlock comes from capturing outposts, which is not actually too difficult to complete. I haven't gone for it myself. I've still not got it unlocked. I will do, because I love using the vows and stuff like that are in the game, and they use this ammunition. It is just amazing to actually get, and so I'll be focusing on trying to get that at some point when we do a stream, hopefully. And of course you can follow me on Twitch in the link down below if you want to join me along that journey of trying to finish off all of the quests in the game. But there you go, that is the ones to be considering. So SP6 unlocked at level 4 Prapor when you do complete capturing outposts. Now, time for the gameplay portion. I was currently running SP5 just because I had lots of it, and we might as well use it as kind of the worst case if you don't have access to SP6. I didn't want to showcase something that isn't true to life if you don't have access to that ammunition. It is a relatively high level requirement to get those, and even though the requirement to get the actual weapon itself is relatively, I guess, mid-stage. Prapor loyalty level 4 is not too bad, but still you want to be able to see what it actually does in game. Essentially what you can go for is like upper mid chest area, and often that will just kind of go up into the head. The recoil on this thing, it is noticeable at longer ranges, but it doesn't feel absolutely terrible, and kind of feels quite nice when you do use it in the game. I didn't really have any issues when it came to the SR3M. When I was actually using it, it worked really well. The only kind of main concern that I did have was the burnout rate, whereby it heats up very quickly, to the point where you, after a very semi-long engagement, maybe you've got 4, 5, 6 things that you have to take out, you do run the risk of ending up overheating your weapon and causing some of those malfunctions, which really are frustrating when you do use a weapon like this. But in one-on-one engagements, it is outstanding. It is so good. It melts through those PMCs super easily, and kind of is one of those weapons that I've loved using straight from the beginning. Any of these sorts of VAL variants where you're using those high damage rounds out of a 9x39, it really feels fantastic to use, and so I can't really stress it enough how good this weapon actually is when you get it running on closer quarters maps, things like factory. If you're running streets inside of buildings, it is a really good weapon to kind of go around in mid to shorter ranges, and it just works really well. As long as you're aiming kind of mid chest, or you're going for legs on some of the bosses, it really works. Or you go for the head if you're facing things like the goons. This weapon is relatively okay, but of course that overheating can become a very big negative when you're trying to take out things like the goons on a one-on-one engagement with like Knight or Big Pipe or Bird Eye or whatever. On a one-on-one it's fine, but it's when they all come towards you, or maybe you miss a ton of shots and you end up firing off an entire mag, and then you start firing a second mag, it really does become a big problem with it overheating, and probably one of the main issues you'll run into if you're running this weapon, and that causes durability issues. Durability on these weapons is pretty garbage. After a couple of raids, you pretty much want to swap one out, so it does become very expensive in terms of using that weapon consistently throughout, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 raids or whatever. You are going to be having to go through quite a few of these weapons in general to actually keep up with that durability burnout that you'll find. So yeah, it does feel a little bit annoying, and of course if you haven't got them unlocked and you're only finding them in marked rooms, it's probably not a good idea to use these weapons until you actually have the ability to purchase them. I wouldn't necessarily go searching marked rooms to pick up this weapon, as you do have alternatives like the Valve, for example, that you can just use and works very, very similarly, but it still feels really cool to use. I enjoyed it thoroughly, and I highly recommend, if you do have Prapor level 4, then you do go out and at least try this out, because I really enjoyed it. If you have any better builds, or you've been testing it out yourself and you think it's absolutely garbage and you think that I'm completely wrong, let me know in the comments, as you know, it's one man's experience versus another one's, and yeah, it'd be interesting to get a good overview of what you guys think about this. And if you've got any specific weapons, whether they be absolutely garbage or whether you think that they're really, really good, let me know and I'll try and test them out and kind of showcase them in some weird videos where we're testing out absolutely horrendous setups, or just terrible guns in a weird way, or on terrible maps for said guns. It would be kind of cool to do and give myself a little bit of a challenge at the same time. But either way, if you enjoy Escape from Tarkov, make sure to check out this video, and of course I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.